Hey, you guys. My name is Natalie. This is my so-called Gen X life, and this is a very special live stream today because this is a big day for Gen Xers. This is one of those days that defines you as a Gen Xer if you remember this day and where you were. And I'm talking about January 28th, 1986. This was the day that the Challenger space shuttle launched and exploded about a minute and 15 seconds after liftoff. Now, the reason this is such a big deal for Gen Xers is because there was a special program, a teacher in space program, and there was like a 2-year big deal about this. President Reagan announced it, and they found a teacher named Krista McAuliffe from New Hampshire, who was the first private citizen that was supposed to go to space. And she was going to give lessons. She was going to teach lessons from space while they were up in orbit. And so they had put TVs and a video feed into all of the schools so we could watch her do these school lessons in space. And so we were all there watching the launch. And that's when this all happened. So if you haven't seen one of my live streams, thank you so much for joining me today. I usually go live on Friday nights, but today I wanted to do a special live stream and revisit Challenger. We are going to watch the launch. We are going to watch a video that I made about the launch, and I want to hear your stories, have you share where you were that day, what you remember about that day. And we're also going to go into some of the post-news coverage and also some of the conspiracy theories surrounding the Challenger launch and what happened to the astronauts. So that's what I got planned for the next couple of hours. Hope you can join me today and revisit this very, very big day in Gen X history. So hello to all that are here today. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's get right to it. It happened at, let's see, I had the time. What time did the Challenger explode? It was 11:39 Eastern time, which, I'm a little bit off, but we're going to go ahead and watch it because I was watching it. I was in the 3rd grade, and we had our teacher pull in a TV on the cart, the traditional TV pulled in on the cart, and we turned it on to watch the launch. And then when everything happened, they literally just turned off the TV, rolled the cart out of the room, and had us all go to lunch. So, and then they came in later and told us that the principal came in later that afternoon and told us that the astronauts had all died. And I remember being picked up by my mom after school and just in tears. And so I was 8 years old when this happened. And I remember it like it was yesterday. So we're going to go ahead and watch the launch as it was played on CNN. So let me go ahead and pull that up. And then I will go through and then I'm going to read some of your comments and put up your comments and read your stories and your memories as well. But let's go ahead and pull up the coverage of CNN. All right, here we go.
Let's go down to the Kennedy Space Center and take a look at Challenger sitting on the pad.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Engines at 65%, 3 engines running normally, 3 good fuel cells, 3 good APUs. Velocity 2,257 feet per second. Altitude 4.3 nautical miles, downrange distance 3 nautical miles.
So the 25th Space Shuttle mission is now on the way after more delays than NASA cares to count. This morning, it looked as though they were not going to be able to get off.
And there it goes.
1 minute, 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
Looks like a couple of the solid rocket boosters blew away from the side of the shuttle in an explosion.
Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
We're awaiting word. They're holding their breath, just, I'm sure, as everyone else is. In the center of the fire and the smoke, you can't see any form of what was once the shuttle. You saw it just a few moments ago, about 45 seconds after liftoff, a huge fireball in the sky.
We have a report from the flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded. Flight director confirms that. We are looking at checking with the recovery forces to see what can be done at this point. Contingency procedures are in effect.
This is a video from CNN, obviously, that they edited together after the fact. CNN was the only network that was covering it live that day. For those of you that don't remember, the space shuttle program started in 1981, and for the first couple of years, it was a big deal. Every time they launched a shuttle, they would, it was a news event, on the networks. They'd break into programming and show you the launch. But then after a couple of years, they launched so many shuttles that it kind of became old hat and old news. And as Chris notes in the comments here, they're getting ready to cut away from the shuttle after it had launched. They showed it, big deal. And then a minute and a half later, everything happened. So there was a lot of controversy surrounding this shuttle launch. There was a lot of delays. It had been delayed, I think, 2 or 3 times, maybe more. It was very, very cold that morning, and that was one of the reasons that what happened. So we're going to watch the rest of this CNN breakdown, and then we're going to watch my video that I made about it, and we'll keep talking about it and maybe watch some different news feeds as well. So let's finish up this video.
Oh yeah, I mean out of Miami.
Right, 2 crews out of Miami, and how many crews we got going? Okay, so we got 4 crews.
2
We got 3.
How many at the Space Center? That's the big thing.
Houston.
Yeah, how many in Houston?
In Houston,
The whole Chicago thing is very
well, we got Flock and a crew.
No, he continues to work the story.
He's
He's getting tons of people coming in there. His worry now is the air. He worries about the air. We'll worry about everything else.
He's leaving. Stand by to voice over this picture. Shut up in here. Open their mics. Talk, folks.
Rella's there. He's staying at the top of the Can you get to the airport in time to just meet that plane and say, get back on the plane with tickets?
Whoever is necessary right now, please move back in the pit.
Graphics, I need pictures of the crew, please.
We are still not clear as yet, Tom, exactly what is parachuting down.
We're not clear, but we know that a C-130 was in the area, and that medical personnel were dispatched by parachute down into the water to search for survivors.
A BZ truck, okay, hired by WBZ, in right there. All right, there's no name on the truck. We don't know whose it is.
Her parents watched it from the VIP site, 3.5 miles from the launch pad, hugged each other and stopped, watching the fireball. Let's get that in. All right. Okay, let me redo this.
When we first saw the explosion, we didn't know exactly what had happened. And then we realized
That's a really good point. When they first saw the explosion, because the people that were there watching it, I've actually been to a space shuttle launch. I went to one the year before in 1985. And when you're on the ground watching it, you're miles away. You're miles away watching the launch. And so when it goes up, it's very small and it's very hard to see what was going on. So the people on the ground didn't realize what had happened at first. And even Chris McAuliffe's parents who were there watching it didn't quite realize what had happened at first. Now, when you were watching it on TV, when it was the close up, you could see that something had gone wrong, but again, it was very hard to tell what had happened, and nothing like this had happened before as far as this kind of a disaster during launch. So it was a lot of confusion. And even though it seems very obvious to us now that it blew up right there, it was hard to tell that when you were on the ground and not being able to, you know, with that close-up shot of seeing what had happened.
I think we were trying to talk ourselves out of it really being the disaster that it was.
There may be no State of the Union tonight. They got to start planning a shuttle show for 9 o'clock.
Okay, we're going to read. Read and Scott, let me talk a little bit.
That is Senator John Glenn.
Braylon and Hess can handle till midnight. Burncroft can pick up.
They don't get it to midnight anyway.
Let's let Hess be the overall planner of, you know, how much trouble we have getting people to sleep, of working out who works when and handling
down there?
stations. You gonna worry about that?
Yeah, we only got 6 rooms in Houston. That's most we could get.
You can plug continuing live coverage, the NASA news conference at 3:30 live, then get me into, there's been a reaction from across the country, briefly, some thoughts from people in New York.
Also, remember, this was only about 5 years into CNN's life. CNN started about 80, 81, I believe. And CNN was not the news powerhouse you would call them today, if you want to call them that. Or they weren't the CNN that we know today. They were still very young in their network history, and the 24-hour news cycle was not a thing. The 24-hour news network was not a thing yet. So this was a very like new kind of news event that happened on in television journalism. So one thing to remember.
New York, and you hit 2 sound bites and come out of the sound bites and get me into this. All right, I'll walk you through it on the IFB.
At first, no one was quite sure what we had seen. Everyone was sort of
My job began just at the time that this tragic accident occurred, and I was not permitted to have emotional feelings about it. I will have those later. I had to represent this network in doing the things that it is expected to do.
A long way from history, but responsible for making sure that we covered it. And sad, little prayer.
Usually the night before, I had the same nightmare that what I saw today, and I thought it was a dream. I was speechless for a few minutes. I knew that explosion shouldn't have happened when it did, and I was holding my breath, and I crossed my fingers as I always do right before the launch. And when I saw the fireball in the sky, I knew no one could have survived that. It's got to be the toughest thing I've ever done in my life.
Crazy. All right. Let's watch the video that I made about it. I actually made videos, a series of videos about the biggest news stories of the 80s, according to an 80s kid. And number 1 on the list was Challenger. So I'm going to show you the segment that I did about it. It's going to give you a little backstory into Krista McAuliffe and why she was on the Challenger and what they had planned and why so many kids across the country were watching it live as it happened. So let me bring up my video. All right, here we go.
I don't think any teacher has ever been more ready to have 2 lessons in my life. I've been preparing these since September, and I just hope everybody tunes in on day 4 now to watch the teacher teaching from space.
January 28th, 1986 is the day that pretty much every American Gen Xer remembers. That morning, millions of school children from elementary to high school were gathered in classrooms, auditoriums, and gymnasiums in schools across the country to watch the launch of the Space Shuttle Challenger on TVs rolled in on carts. But 73 seconds after that launch, disaster occurred. The shuttle broke apart in an explosion, killing all 7 crew members on board. So what exactly happened, and why were millions of Gen Xers watching it live from school? The space shuttle program began in the 1970s, with NASA designing a reusable spacecraft for low Earth orbit missions, including satellite deployment, scientific experiments, and International Space Station support. 4 operational orbiters were originally built. They were Columbia, Discovery, Atlantis, and Challenger. The first space shuttle to launch was Columbia on April 12, 1981. And over the next 5 years, 24 successful shuttle missions were completed, including 9 by Challenger. Challenger first flew in April of 1983 and was key in the shuttle program for satellite launches and space lab missions. Its second flight in June of 83 had a crew that included the first American woman in space, which was, of course, Sally Ride. A quick personal story here. In June of 1985, my parents took my brother and I to Cape Canaveral, Florida, to watch the launch of Discovery. We had to get up super early, and it took hours to get to the watch site, but it was quite the experience for a 7-year-old.
It was.
The watch site was about 3 miles away from the launch pad, and you had to take a special bus to the site, and there were bleachers that you sat on to watch the launch. They also had loudspeakers so you could hear mission control. After watching Discovery take off, I remember going back to the Kennedy Space Center and seeing a big digital sign that had the upcoming launch schedule for the rest of the year. Challenger was the next one to go up that summer, and in fact, there were 5 more launches in the second half of 1985. At the time, NASA faced intense schedules. There were 15 launches planned for 1986. There was also political pressure to justify funding and to demonstrate program success, which included the new Teacher in Space initiative. In 1984, President Ronald Reagan announced the Teacher in Space project to inspire students, honor educators, and promote interest in space exploration.
Today, I'm directing NASA to begin a search in all of our elementary and secondary schools and to choose as the first citizen passenger in the history of our space program one of America's finest, a teacher.
The goal was to send the first private citizen into space, a teacher who would conduct lessons from orbit, demonstrate the effects of microgravity, and share the experience of spaceflight. Here's a little interesting fact. Before it was decided that a teacher was going to space, NASA briefly considered the idea of Big Bird being on board the shuttle. According to Carol Spinney's autobiography, The Wisdom of Big Bird and the Dark Genius of Oscar the Grouch, Lessons from a Life in Feathers, NASA informally approached him about the possibility of including Big Bird in the Teacher in Space project for the Challenger mission to capture young audiences' attention. But the concept was quickly dismissed due to practical challenges. The Big Bird costume, standing over 8 feet tall and requiring Spinney to operate it with one hand raised, was deemed incompatible with the shuttle's confined space and safety requirements. After President Reagan announced the Teacher in Space project, NASA received over 11,000 applications.
School teachers with wide eyes and big grins are learning the ropes at Johnson Space Center, all in hope of becoming the school teacher, the one which will fly aboard a spaceship.
The teachers are here to learn, but it is clear one thing they already know. Each wants to go to space.
Of course, they all wanted to go to space before, but now that the possibility of that is very real, well, just ask the teachers.
I think there's a lot out there that we don't have and we don't know. I think that we're only beginning to scratch the surface of what in reality is the new frontier.
The future is there. It really is. And this is just the first step. This is like man leaving his cradle. He's going to go out to the stars. I really think we're going to get there someday. And
I want to do this so that I can come back and just give some of these experiences to my kids.
These are the space age people.
There she is.
Their children are going to be possibly living on space stations. They're going to have all of these new frontiers. And for teachers to come back with that excitement, I think they're really going to benefit from it. Do you remember when they sent the first chimpanzee up on that rocket? Well, I thought it should have been an elementary school kid named Barbara Raddick. I really wanted to be the one up there, and I've been interested ever since.
But the thing I can do out there, and that's get kids excited to watch out there and see why this frontier is so valuable.
to be up there, to look back at the planet Earth, it's an ultimate trip. It's the ultimate experience of a lifetime.
My students are going to benefit from it. I'm going to benefit from it. Other teachers with whom I work will benefit.
And when one teacher circles the globe next January, millions of kids around the country are going to be looking up to teachers in more ways than one.
The children entering kindergarten this fall are going to be in the job market through the first half of the 21st century, and I want to make sure a teacher's there to help convey to educators what skills are needed to help those children survive in that kind of future.
NASA officials will pick a finalist and a runner-up before the end of the month. The winner will go to space in January.
After months of testing and rigorous evaluations, they narrowed the field down to 10 finalists, who then underwent even more testing and interviews. On July 19th, 1985, Vice President George H.W. Bush announced the winner. NASA chose a 37-year-old social studies teacher from Concord High School in Concord, New Hampshire, named Krista McAuliffe.
Winner, the teacher who will be going into space, Krista McAuliffe. Where's that you?
I've made 9 wonderful friends over the last 2 weeks. And when that shuttle goes, there might be one body. But there's going to be 10 souls that I'm taking with me. Thank you.
That's great.
I went for something that I felt I had really no chance in. I decided to overextend a bit and fill in an application that I knew thousands and thousands of people were going to be filling in. But it was important for me because it was something that I really wanted to do. And I hope that a lot of students looking at that will say, well, I know 80 people are going to try out for this team, but it's something that I really want to do and not to be afraid of failure.
McAuliffe's application emphasized her ability to connect with students and her vision to humanize the space experience. Her proposal, titled The Ultimate Field Trip, aimed to make space accessible by documenting her journey in a journal and sharing it with classrooms. When McAuliffe was named the winner, it meant that she had to take a break from teaching and commit to 1 year with NASA to train for the shuttle mission, and then months of speaking engagements and public appearances after she returned from the mission. While on board Challenger, McAuliffe planned to deliver 2 15-minute live lessons from space, broadcast to classrooms across the United States via PBS as part of NASA's educational outreach. Her lessons were designed to engage students in grades K through 12 by showcasing real-time experiments in microgravity. She also planned to give students a tour of the shuttle and a chance to see the crew in action. McAuliffe was officially named as part of the crew for Challenger's 10th flight, known as STS-51-L. And this is why millions of American schoolchildren were watching on that day in January of 1986. Due to weather and technical issues, Challenger's launch was delayed multiple times. On the morning of January 28th, the temperature had dropped near freezing in Florida and icicles had formed the launch pad.
Good morning, Bob. It is cold here. It is Long John weather at the Cape. NASA has had launches in sub-freezing weather before, but never from the shuttle program. And there is some concern about the effect of these cold temperatures.
Some concern?
Primarily, they're looking at a buildup of ice on the outside of the external fuel tank, which is loaded with hydrogen and oxygen at very low temperatures. Meanwhile, the crew is going through the routine of having breakfast just before they take them out to the pad. This will be the second countdown for what's going to be known as the teacher flight, because it will feature lessons to be taught a little bit later by Krista McAuliffe, the school teacher from New Hampshire.
The original plan for that day was to try to launch at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, but once again it was delayed. This time, though, it was just for a couple of hours. After the weather warmed up and the technical issues were seemingly fixed, the countdown finally reached 0 and Challenger launched at 11:38 a.m. Eastern Time.
8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
I was in my 3rd grade classroom with my teacher and fellow students watching on a 19-inch CRT television that had been rolled in. And since I considered myself to be a shuttle expert, having seen one launch in person, 8-year-old me was giving everyone in my class a space lesson, Punky Brewster style, as the shuttle left the launch pad. 73 seconds after that launch, I saw something that I hadn't seen the previous summer when my family and I watched Discovery.
Challenger, go at throttle up. Challenger, go at throttle up.
1 minute, 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles. Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
Seeing that giant fireball and the 2 lines of smoke, I just knew something wasn't right. We all sat there in silence. The teachers didn't say a word. And then we heard Mission Control confirm that the shuttle had exploded.
We have no downlink. This is Mission Control Houston. We have no additional word at this time. reports from the flight dynamics officer indicate that the vehicle apparently exploded and that impact in the water.
At that point, my teacher turned off the TV and rolled it out of the room. We went to lunch and then went back to our regular schoolwork that afternoon. At one point in the day, the principal came in and told us that none of the astronauts had survived.
When they posed, it was like a portrait of America. Men and women, war veterans and first-time astronauts, parents, and even a classical pianist. Their commander was Francis Scobie, age 46, from Washington State, an astronaut after 22 years in the Air Force. This was his second shuttle mission. Second in command, pilot Michael Smith, age 40, a decorated Navy pilot from North Carolina. Like Scobie, he'd seen combat in Vietnam and trained as a test pilot. And like the commander, he was a husband and father. This was Smith's first shuttle mission. Mission specialist Ellison Onizuka was the first Hawaiian astronaut who believed in the benefits of the space program.
There are a lot of outcomes from these projects which will affect both our society and the rest of the world.
Onizuka is survived by his wife and 2 daughters. 36-year-old mission specialist Judy Resnick was a shuttle veteran, her assignment to operate the shuttle's mechanical arm. She was on board the shuttle Discovery in 1984 when a launch was aborted after the engines had fired. Gregory Jarvis was on board to conduct tests on the effects of weightlessness on liquids carried in tanks. Born in Detroit, trained as an Air Force satellite engineer, Jarvis was on his first shuttle mission. Ronald McNair, age 36, from South Carolina, brought a background in physics and laser technology to the shuttle program. This was the second trip to space for a husband and father who saw space travel as a calling for mankind.
I see it as something that we must do, and I see it as something that's part of man's nature to explore.
These 6, along with Krista McAuliffe, the first teacher in space, now a tragic page in NASA history.
When my mom picked me up from school that day, I was in tears. When we got home, we watched the news coverage on all the networks and CNN, but it would take months before the truth about what happened was revealed. The primary cause of the Challenger disaster was the failure of an O-ring seal in the right solid rocket booster. Cold weather at the time of the launch, which was 36 degrees Fahrenheit, caused the O-ring to become brittle, losing its ability to seal properly. After launch, hot gases escaped from the solid rocket booster joint, damaging the external fuel tank, leading to a structural failure. What we came to find out was that engineers had raised concerns about O-ring seals in solid rocket boosters in cold weather as early as 1977. But those concerns were downplayed. The shuttle was destroyed by aerodynamic forces, not an explosion. The fireball we saw was from ignited fuel. The crew cabin separated and fell into the Atlantic Ocean, with impact occurring about 2 minutes and 45 seconds later. Evidence suggested that the crew survived the initial breakup, but likely lost consciousness due to depressurization before the cabin hit the ocean. No definitive evidence confirms they were conscious during the descent. Quick side note number 2. There is quite the conspiracy theory surrounding the astronauts and what happened to the crew cabin in the aftermath of this tragedy. This video isn't the right place to talk about it, but I had to mention it. Today put some links in the description if you're interested. I can't help myself. I'm a conspiracy theory girl. Anyways, there was an investigation from the Rogers Commission into the Challenger disaster, with key findings pointing to the O-ring failure exacerbated by the cold weather, plus some organizational issues at NASA. That pressure to maintain launch schedules was a big deal, and the disaster led to increased scrutiny of NASA's decision processes and the safety culture. After the Challenger tragedy, NASA suspended space shuttle launches for 32 months. They also made some design changes to the solid rocket boosters, and NASA implemented stricter safety protocols. But holy crap, they learned absolutely nothing from the Challenger disaster, it seems to me. The shuttle program resumed on September 29, 1988, with the launch of Discovery. And over the next 2 decades, there were 110 more shuttle launches. They even built a new shuttle to replace the Challenger called the Endeavour. The packed schedules and the pressure to launch never subsided, and the new safety protocols were eventually taken for granted. On February 1st, 2003, the Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated during re-entry over Texas, killing all 7 crew members. The Space Shuttle program officially came to an end in July of 2011 due to cost and safety concerns, plus the fact that NASA had an aging fleet. The shuttles had been operational since 1981. As for the Challenger, in the aftermath of that disaster, President Reagan spoke to the country from the Oval Office on the evening of January 28th instead of giving his scheduled State of the Union address, and gave us one of the most memorable lines from his presidency.
The crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger honored us for the manner in which they lived their lives. We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them this morning, as they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye and slipped the surly bonds of Earth to touch the face of God.
A few weeks later, a very special episode of Punky Brewster aired addressing the Challenger disaster to help Gen X kids cope with what they had witnessed. Meanwhile, the movie Space Camp, which was filmed in the summer of 1985, was released in April of 1986, unfortunate timing, and completely bombed at the box office due to the Challenger disaster. And then in 1990, a made-for-TV movie titled Challenger, starring Karen Allen as Krista McAuliffe, aired on ABC. The film focused on her selection as the teacher in space, her training, and the emotional impact of the disaster on her family and students.
Sunday.
Krista, how do you feel? I feel good.
They were America's hope for the future.
What's it like to be up there in space? You don't want to come back.
The commander and the pilot, backed up by a team of 3 mission specialists, a civilian from Hughes Aircraft, and a school teacher named Krista McAuliffe.
You're not scared. Neither am I.
That's where you have to feel when you're an astronaut. Karen Allen, Barry Boston.
You're a wonderful crew. All right, that's great.
Challenger, Sunday at 8, 7 Central.
One final note about Challenger. I need to mention that there was another teacher named Barbara Morgan who was selected as McAuliffe's alternate for the Teacher in Space project. Morgan trained alongside McAuliffe every step of the way. And then after McAuliffe's death, Morgan took over the educational outreach responsibilities that were intended for McAuliffe. These included public speaking engagements, educational consulting, and curriculum design. Morgan returned to teaching after fulfilling those commitments, but then in the late 90s, she was accepted into the NASA program, and in 2007, Morgan flew on the Space Shuttle Endeavour, the orbiter built to replace Challenger. She flew as a mission specialist and completed the educational objectives that were inspired by the original Teacher in Space program. Okay, guys, that's all right. That was my video about the Challenger. Did you learn anything that you didn't know already? I, going into it, when I made that video, did not realize that Barbara Morgan had eventually become an astronaut and gone into space to finish McAuliffe's objectives. So that was quite a surprise to me. But as far as what happened that day and, you know, how they rushed to launch, to get it launched because it had been delayed so many times, and to launch it in that cold of weather was just insanity. So, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, Judy Resnick flew on Discovery as well. Yeah, there was a couple of crew members on Challenger that had been up before, because remember, we had dozens of space launches from 81 to 86. And so there had been that was the whole point of the shuttles, was to be able to go up and come back multiple times. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. Looks like you guys remember where you were. I know it's crazy that it's been 40 years. It doesn't seem possible. And it's weird to think that something that was 40 years ago, like I can remember it. I can remember the day. I can remember where I was. I can remember my classroom. I can remember what happened. It's bizarre. And yeah, it is a weird coincidence. I think the cold weather might have something to do with something. I don't know. But yeah, all of the major space program disasters that happened through our government space program at NASA all happened in late January, early February. And it's funny because, you know, as I was going through the research for that video, I forget that, you know, back then in the 80s with the Challenger program and everything, or the space shuttle program, that there was this thought, this sense that we were like, space exploration was just the next level of, you know, of manned flight, and we were going to start traveling to the moon. Like normal people were just going to start traveling and living on the moon and living in space stations. And like we had this thought and idea of expanding, into space as humanity, and which was the reason for the private citizen in space initiative to get the teacher in space. But then as soon as this happened, like all of that just ended. Like that whole, like that, what I'm saying? Does that make sense what I'm saying? It just changed the mood and changed everything immediately. Oh, wow. What a story. Your father worked in aerospace. That day was the only time that I ever saw him cry. Wow. Wow. You think China will be the first to Mars? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I know that Elon wants to go. I don't know if it'll even be a government backed thing. I mean, I guess it has to be, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if that happens in our lifetime. Thank you, Chow Young Cat, for the gifted membership. I super appreciate that. You are very, very kind. So cool. Yeah, it looks like we were all kind of having the same experience. You live in Florence, South Carolina. 2 weeks before it happened, Ron McNair visited your high school. Oh my gosh. I bet that was crazy to watch. And yeah, so many kids had their teachers apply for the program, and get pretty far in it. So there was a lot of connections between, Gen X kids at the time and that day, that Challenger explosion. Do I think the moon landing was fake? Part of me says yes. I have so many questions about it. I think it could go either way. It's hard for me to believe that they could put something on, like, men on the moon and a device or spacecraft on the moon, or aircraft on the moon with less computing power than what I have in my phone. It's hard for me to get over that, and to like the fact that we just like deleted the space program, like the moon landing, the Apollo program. We just like scrapped all of that out of our memory. I don't know. Yeah, Stanley Kubrick. It is a well-established. I don't know. And that's one of the things I like conspiracy theories. Let me get to, speaking of conspiracy theories, let's get to that. There are conspiracy theories that the crew survived. There's that crew where he wasn't even on board. So that's hard to find videos about this. So if anybody has any good videos, put a link in the chat. Really, have I ever looked at the near miss shuttle disasters, particularly 88 Atlantis? It was little complete and utter dumb luck. It didn't explode on reentry. Wow. I can only imagine it. That is nuts. All right, let me bring up some of these conspiracy theory videos. Oh, that video is no longer available. Hold on. Of course. Let me bring it up. I just had it, and then because the video wasn't available, so then I lost it. Okay. Let me see if there's any other available. Because I had 3 saved, and then one of them is gone. All right, here. Whoops. All right, let's try this one.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Like, people die. So let's talk about like the Challenger explosion, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, people died, right? We get it. It was a very sad thing. There was a teacher on there, and there was
probably one of the saddest ones in history, but
probably, I mean, it was certainly the biggest one, the most that they talked about.
Yeah.
But it was like it was a big deal, right? And then you get this conspiracy theory that comes out, and I'm sure you've heard it.
Of course.
They found people that look exactly like the people that were supposed to have died.
Identical, not just like
identical. Same age, same everything. Some of them the same name, just like a different version of it, like Catherine or Kathy and Catherine type thing, right? So, and when they investigate some of these people, there's no history for them. You know what I mean? Like
one of them was a twin brother of him, right?
Yeah, and there was no record of the twin brother ever.
Yeah,
that they could find. So when you get to stuff like that, now you're in conspiracy theory land, right? Like, I mean, obviously.
Oh yeah.
But to have those type of coincidences, and you're talking about 5 or 6 coincidences that were, I mean, all of them had a doppelganger, basically. So
yeah, so they all had doppelgangers is basically the conspiracy theory. So we're going to see if I can find the videos that have them. And you're right, Kevin. The debate about the moon landing was real or not can be as divisive as politics, because it has some political implications, and whether or not you can trust your institutions and your government and your leaders. So Chow Young Cat, $5. Please show the photo of them all side by side then and now. I had that. I'm hoping that video is still available. Hold on just a second. If not, I can show the photo. I will get there, I promise.
On this episode.
Okay, Cocktails and Conspiracies did a whole episode about it. It's an hour and a half long, but they show the different photos. So let me see if I can hop through here and see what they did. Torchwood Gal, new member. Thank you so very much. Let me give you some applause. Let me get it. I got to get there we go. Thank you, Torchwood Gal. Okay. Let's see what photos they got.
So we're looking at these people right now. This is just our main crew right here, right? Look like ordinary run-of-the-mill people. I've got their names over here. I can probably pull them up for you real quick. Let me just kind of, I don't remember if you can actually see my cursor or not here, but we're gonna roll with it anyway. At the moment.
Nah, we're good.
Yeah, so we've all seen this photo a million times. This is the 7 crew members. Now they're gonna bring up the doppelgangers. Here's Judy Resnick.
All right, so I don't remember what this guy's name is that found all this stuff, but he started doing some research here and comes to find out, if this was a hoax, right? If the government was spoofing this entire thing, number one, why would they do it? Obviously, it's the biggest questions in everybody's mind, but what happens afterwards? How do you prove this? And so what they end up doing, and I kind of lost our little riverside here, what they end up doing is looking up these particular astronauts. First one to bring up is right here. So we said her name is Judith Resnick, right?
Yep.
I want to pull up a new picture for you right here. I'm going to pull up this one here. It's going to be a several shares here that we're going to have to go through.
I really appreciate Cocktails and Conspiracies doing this whole video. It really helps me out. They did really good work. And you're right. Motives and plot behind conspiracy theories gets convoluted. And the thing is, it's like so many of them turn out to be true. But yeah, it's a big whole deal. The whole world of conspiracy theories has really changed and evolved over the last 30 years.
Spoiler alert, she's not the only one to teach things.
Well, none of them are really. You know what? I'm going to open it right in my browser here because that seems to want to work easier when I jump back and forth to things. So I want to bring up this photo first.
Yep.
Judy Resnick, the astronaut from the Challenger crew we have, is over here on the right-hand side.
Here we go.
After doing some research, it turns out that there is also a Judy Resnick who is a law professor who is alive and well.
Yes, she is.
Let that sink in there for a little bit right there. Judy Resnick was born, the Challenger's Judy Resnick was born on April 5th, 1949. She has a PhD in electrical engineering, was the first Jewish American astronaut to go into space, and the second female American astronaut. At the time that this was found, and I guess that this is really publicized, and I don't have an exact date on that either. It looked like she would have been 66. Okay.
What do y'all think? What do y'all think of this photo and this situation? We're gonna go through them all. So,
okay.
The woman over here on the left, that is a law professor,
Judy Resnick.
also named Judy Resnick. She works at Yale Law School. Also 66 years old. The exact same age. Okay.
And most importantly, she looks identical.
She looks very similar. She looks very similar. The chin, very similar.
She does.
Facial structure.
I mean, that's and the fact that it's the exact same name. I mean, that's a hard one to digest. My biggest problem with this conspiracy theory is that because Krista was involved, because there was an actual civilian, regular private citizen involved, a teacher with 2 kids, like if she's still alive, which we're gonna, I don't know. This is a hard one for me to wrap my mind around. I guess my biggest question would be, what would be the point? What would be the point of doing this? And if you guys have theories on that, please let me know. So, they're going to show us some more photos here.
All right, I'm back.
Yes.
So sometimes I hate doing this because when I start to venture down these rabbit holes, I look at photos like this and I'm like, I don't know how to disprove it. It's not that I 100% believe it just based on a photo of someone that looks like one another, but the similarities are so fucking striking, man, that it's like, how could that be a different person? Like I'm looking at a photo of
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to wrap your head around this. Here's another one.
Missive of him, like
yes,
really running away from the camera. Now, granted, maybe this woman has been hounded for 39 years of reporters and conspiracy theorists trying to talk to her, and maybe she's just like, I can't handle this anymore, and that's more than likely the reason why she wanted to get rid.
All right, that's Judy. Let's go on to the next one. Well, here's another one, another picture of Judy. All right, now we're going to go to Michael J. Smith.
One other thing I wanted to bring up here. This is going to require a touch of audio here. So you're going to have to listen a little bit here. And after this, we'll start breezing through. I promise. It will be really quick.
I guess it's not hard to find doppelgangers, but why are their names so familiar and sometimes exactly the same? Like, I can get if, I understand the whole doppelganger thing, but to have the same names.
This is from another YouTube from Quantum Dynamic, not Quantum Vitality, on YouTube here. Hopefully you all can hear this. I know sometimes the audio doesn't work, don't really know. So let's see what happens.
I am hoping that the affliction that Steve Hawley had from the 41D mission specialist, the delays.
Oh, they're going into voice. They're going into like trying to figure out if their voices are the same. That's deep.
Hasn't rubbed off on me.
For a very long arm, which is as long as a cargo bay, it's 50 feet long.
The image lets you see all of the current contemporary issues. All courts shall be open, property remedied by due course of law. You can find these.
Sounds like she has a very similar speech pattern, but all right, let's get to Michael.
What do you think the chances? Not Michael J. Fox, Michael J. Smith. What's the chances that Michael J. Smith also happens to have a doppelganger?
True.
I mean, a spitting image, a doppelganger.
That
Very
is
common
a
name.
Spitting image. Very common.
Very common name.
The most common name of all. Now, I
it
can
is
even
unlikely-
suggest this is also Michael J. Smith. They do have the same name. The
Yes,
exact
exact
same
same
name. The man
names.
on the right and the man on the left, the exact same name, Michael J. Smith. And use it professionally in that same way.
Yeah, and again, just like we looked at with Judy, I mean, if you compare his eyes, they're very, very similar. As he gets older, they kind of slant and maybe kind of droop down a little bit.
Then, and the other thing is like, okay, what would be the point of doing this, of faking this? And I just lost my train of thought. I just lost it. But yeah, what was the motive of this? And then all of these people that look the same. This is a tough one for my brain. Conspiracy theories are very appealing to people with addictive personalities. Well, I can see that. And it's trying to make sense of the world, because I think it's fair to say that, how do you know truth? How do you know, like, where do you get truth? And the leaders that are in charge, and the governments, and throughout history, not just current present day, but just like, how do you know what's really going on? And sometimes when you're trying to make sense of the things that are going on in the world, and what they're telling you doesn't really match with what you see, it's just, of course, you're going to go into start thinking about, well, wait a second, and again, if you go back into, all of our history from the JFK assassination and all of that stuff, like, there were government entities that were keeping things from people, and that were doing things, that were nefarious actors. And like, so yeah, like, it makes sense that things just aren't always what they seem. But yeah, I mean, you got to be careful with it. You've got to be careful with it. Yeah, conspiracy theories have been around forever. Yeah, creatively constructive free thinking. I like it. All right, let's see here.
Maybe a little bit of extra skin there.
Sure.
Nose is pretty similar. It's a bit of a different angle. The one of him when he was younger as an astronaut, it's dead on, or I should say head on. Dead on, no pun intended.
Yeah,
head
right,
on.
The figure on.
Right. It looks like the photo when he's older might be a tad bit off to the right, or he's kind of tilting his head a little bit. But the nose, again, very similar.
Thanks.
And then for me, just like with Judy, bringing it back to the mouth is almost identical.
True.
Now, granted,
Smile. I mean, look at the teeth.
Right. The teeth almost identical. What do they call them? Like laugh lines, right? There's the lines around your mouth. They're much more prevalent. He's older. He's aged. He's
I mean, Michael Smith is a very common name, but again, that picture is quite telling. It just makes you wonder. But that's not all. We got more.
All right. Now we're gonna go to the our girl here. Share this tab. Woman on the left. Krista McAloof. This is our school teacher.
This is our teacher. Okay.
Really the face of this Challenger mission at this point. She's
Okay, now what is this? That's not Krista McAuliffe on the left at all. What is the name? Even the name, I can't read the name on her tag, but that is not Krista McAuliffe. So what's happening here? That is not Krista McAuliffe. I'm going to bring up Krista McAuliffe. Hold on. We just watched her. We just watched her do interviews. We just watched her do all kinds of things. That's Krista McAuliffe. Laurel Clark. Okay, there we go. Laurel Clark. I could see the Laurel part, but I couldn't see the last. So that was Laurel Clark from Columbia. So what in the world are they trying to prove here? So this almost just kills the theory. Yeah, McAloof. Anybody that was alive in the 80s knows that it's McAuliffe. Yeah, that's not Krista McAuliffe. So this is easily debunked. Surely they're not going to sit here and say this was Krista.
She's supposedly selected at random to take this space in the Challenger to teach this class out there. Really lights the fire into this whole program. This woman on the right, her professional name is Sharon A. McAloof.
Okay, so yeah, this one I'm going to skip because this is just dumb. Wrong photo, not even Krista. Let's go to Ronald McNair.
Ronald McNair is right here. He's the second African-American astronaut, so I mentioned earlier, and had a PhD in physics and would be 64 years old if he didn't perished in the space shuttle explosion. Again, I'm justice for the years whenever this particular article was published that I got all these notes from. It's probably 5 years old, give or take. If Ronald was still alive today, we think he would look like this guy, Carl McNair, who was an author, education consultant, and an international speaker. He is the founder and president emeritus of the Ronald McNair Foundation in honor of his brother. So what they're saying is that these are twin brothers.
Okay.
And this brother, Carl, is the last living, I guess, descendant of his brother, Ronald, who perished away here.
Okay. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, this one doesn't hold much water for me either. A brother? Okay, what is that? So did he not appear until after the accident? Or did he have a brother the whole time? I mean, this one's not very compelling to me. Let's move on to what else we got? Let's Scobie, Richard Scobie. He was the commander of Challenger.
To me, this next one is, like I said, Judy to me was the smoking gun. That was the best of the best. This next one, though, is probably my second favorite. Okay.
Ooh,
we've got a guy named Richard Scobie.
Yep.
This is him right here. I don't even have to comment on this one right now.
No.
You want to tell me that there are two people on this planet Earth that got those crazy eyes?
I was just going to say that have those eyes.
Come on, man. I mean, the space, I don't know.
I don't know. So there's the doppelgangers. You know, it's I don't know, I wouldn't call it fun. It's an interesting road to walk down because, again, I question everything that the government tells me narrative wise, but in my heart of hearts, I truly think that this, like, the Challenger happened and they're all dead. That's what I truly believe. I think there's some interesting things, about this, but it happened. I'm not so confident about the moon landing, but for Challenger explosion, yeah. Yeah. Doppelganger theory doesn't hold up for me. But trust and believe, there's still a lot of conspiracy theories out there that I will gladly, go down the rabbit hole. And, this year is the 25th anniversary of 9/11, and I'm going to be doing a whole day 9/11 stream. And we're going to get into some of those because some of those are very interesting. But yeah. Yeah, this one doesn't fly for me. Not at all. But it was fun going down. Would you guys like to watch clips from the Punky Brewster episode about Challenger? I think I have that. Let me bring it up. Let me bring it up. I don't know, though, if I have an option of sharing this screen or not. Oh, you know what? It won't share an app. I'll have to put it online. Hold on. Un momento, por favor. I love having access to all of this, all of these old TV shows. It makes me happy. Okay, this was season 2, at the end of season 2. And the thing about this Punky episode is that they made it like 4 weeks after it happened. It was the very last episode that they played on NBC before they went to syndication. Boom, boom, boom. Accidents happen. Okay, where did my... Hold on. I'm going to find it at some point. Yeah, TK Carter passed away. It's so sad. Punky. Now I know I have Punky on my. I should have had this. I wasn't ready for this one. Where are my servers? Did they change the? They changed the Plex. Because I can't find anything that I have on my server. Where is my what I have access to? Well, all right. Womp womp. I thought we were gonna watch Punky, but it doesn't look like we are. Punky is like, yeah, I can't show Peacock. I have it on my own private stuff, but I can't find it. So, but yeah, so, and I even talked about it in my video that they made the Punky episode just a couple of weeks after it happened, aired it right away. It aired like the first week of March in '86, so it was very, very quick. And then of course the Space Camp movie and everything like that. Let me see. I'm going to show you a little bit of the documentary about Challenger, and let me see if I can find the Punky episode while we're doing that. Or we can just watch the Funny or Die video about it. But no. But I had a bit of a documentary lined up. Oh yeah. So, that was infographics, not that one. A Rush to Launch is what it's called. We'll watch a little bit of this. I'm going to try to find Punky. And then whatever else you guys want to do. We're just going to watch a few minutes of this. We're not going to watch the whole thing because I don't,
We ask God's blessing on the most hazardous and dangerous and greatest adventure on which man has ever embarked.
It's one small step for man.
Actually, the only TV show that I know of that actually did a Challenger episode was Punky. If there is another one out there, please let me know.
One giant leap for mankind.
Engines throttling up. 3 engines now at 104%.
Challenger, go at throttle up. Challenger, go at throttle up.
Obviously a major malfunction. We have no doubt.
We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them this morning, as they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye, and slipped the surly bonds of earth to touch the face of God.
We were able to determine exactly what happened. We know precisely how this accident occurred.
This is dramatic. I like this. I really am trying to find the Punky episode and it's not working. We should remember Chernobyl on April 26th. I'm not opposed to that. I don't have as vivid memories of Chernobyl as I do of Challenger, but I'm not against that at all. Already did, Cold Trickle. We saw a video of her actually watching the launch. I talked about how she became an astronaut later on and continued the Teacher in Space program initiatives. No worries. Wonder Years. Okay. Yeah, that's one thing I should make very clear. launch that day should have never happened. They should have never launched that shuttle. It was a completely unavoidable situation, like a completely avoidable situation. They were pushing to get that thing launched. It was too cold. The O-rings were not made for that kind of cold, and they were already brittle and broken down. It was just that was their time to break. And in that weather, it was just they should have never done it. They should have never done it.
The stars in the sky were like the stars in his eyes, twinkling as he told me what it was like to fly in space.
It's a great pleasure for us to be here. We expect weather like this on Sunday when we launch, and y'all do the best to keep it that way if you would.
Well, I am so excited to be here. I don't think any teacher has ever been more ready to have 2 lessons in my life.
And here comes the flight crew now. Big smiles today.
Well, NASA's space shuttle program actually anticipated flying 60 flights every year when it first was conceived, after the Apollo program was over, which meant, you're going to fly one of these more than every week of the year.
Unfortunately, my access to Punky doesn't look good. It looks like the server's down. I have the Perils of Punky, but I don't have the Challenger one on my computer. It's on my Plex server, and the Plex server's down. Womp womp. So we'll watch a little bit of this, and then
and because it was supposed to be so reusable for
and tonight, over on my Discord, we are watching Little House on the Prairie in order. So that's tonight, and then tomorrow night, Incredible Hulk. We're watching those 2 shows in order, and it's amazing. Once a week, old school style, we all get together and watch a couple episodes of TV instead of binging, and it's so much fun.
For many flights, they tried to recover as much of the hardware for reuse, which included the whole orbiter, obviously, and the only thing that was expended really was the big external tank. Solid rocket boosters were retrieved out of the ocean under parachutes and brought back to refurbish and reload. And the problem they quickly ran into is they found that it was far more difficult to refurbish all this hardware and get it back online.
Hold up. I think maybe we should watch the Funny or Die thing about the Punky episode. We'll watch a little bit of this, and then we'll watch some Funny or Die, and then I'll wrap it up.
It became quite evident that kind of a flight rate wasn't really possible at all. But that was the conception of.
We just started. We watched the pilot the first week. We watched episodes 2 and 3, or technically 1 and 2 last week. We watched Country Girls and A Harvest of Friends last week. So this week it's the episode 3, I guess you would call it, of season 1.
The shuttle in the first place was a real freight train to space.
I remember when the space shuttle program was announced, and I thought that's kind of neat because I thought having a reusable vehicle would be the way to go. I realize now that that's probably a mistake. The shuttle was tremendously complicated. Riding on a rocket's not a real smart thing to do. The fact that
riding on a rocket is not a smart thing to do. I would say that. Do I remember the movie The Challengers from 1990 or 1991? And could you play the trailer? Are you talking about the made-for-TV movie about the Challenger explosion? Is that what you're talking about? Because I can play the trailer. I actually included that trailer in the video that I had earlier. Let me bring it up. Well, hold on. Challenger movie 1990 trailer. Or The Challengers. Oh, The Challengers is a different movie. My bad. We'll do The Challengers. Sorry about that. I did not realize. Let me bring it up.
Is this a new kid from the city?
The least you can do is try and have a good time.
Maggie doesn't think she'll ever like her new home
What's to like? There's nothing to do here.
until she meets the challengers. They play her kind of game.
Nice. Thank you, Matt.
How'd you get these things?
Aw, thank you.
And go to her kind of places.
There's a little island on the river. They go over there all the time. I don't know why. Girls are really pathetic.
But there's just one problem.
I only want to be in your band. You have to be a challenger to be in our band. No girls allowed, see?
No girls allowed.
Fair. Boys have all the fun. We ambushed a gold digger.
Now she's a girl with a mission and a boy with a secret.
Oh, okay. I was wondering why you requested this. So did this have anything to do with the Challenger at all? Or was that just the name of their group or their club or whatever?
Hi, I'm Matt Dales.
But it takes more than music to find your place in the world.
What?
It's pretty hard being a boy, you know. That's nothing. Just a scratch. I suppose it's just as difficult being a girl.
What's up with her?
I'll have to put it in the Discord movie night. I've never watched this.
This little game of yours is through.
I only wanted to be a challenger. I wanted to belong.
Then you will be there as yourself. If they're really your friends, it won't make any difference.
We have rules now. It's just the way it is. Yeah, well, maybe the way it is stupid.
I haven't heard of this either.
The challengers share the journey.
Well, thank you for the super chat. I have never, ever heard of that in my entire life. Thank you so much. Is that Neil Peart? I think it is. Oh, that's good. Okay. We can go back to... I don't know. Do we want to watch the serious doc? We've gone through it. We've watched everything. We watched my video. Let's go ahead. Oh, yes. Town Party Country Party. I think that's a good episode. Busting in the little house with our Challenger discussion. I love it. So let's wrap this up with watching Funny or Die's Challenger video, a Punky video, and then we'll call it a day. Let me bring it up. This is probably better than just watching clips from it anyways.
Brandon's unwinding with a little National Puppy Radio while Punky's bed blogging. A couple weeks back, some shit went down. All the way down. Henry suggested she blog about it to feel better.
What made me so sad was that the space shuttle blew up.
This better be one hell of a blog, folks. Our next trick, slobbery sleight of hand to ease viewers into this hellscape. Punky says tomorrow's career day. It's gonna be fucking sick, bruh. Henry says this is a perfect time.
Good child. Oh, man. This episode is actually a really weird one. Like, they don't show anything about them, but they don't even show them watching it on TV or anything. Like, they just go from career day and Punky dressed up as an astronaut and TK Carter says, hey, let's watch the launch. And then it just cuts to later when Punky runs home from school, starts crying. Like, it's obviously a very quickly put together episode, but it was done.
Just so she can roast you. Punky's not interested in prehistoric Instagram. And Henry can put that nice camera all the way inside his butt because she already knows what she wants to be when she grows up. But first, more dog magic. Brandon wants to show Henry his new trick. Henry reluctantly agrees to see a dog attempt magic. I mean, obviously, this ain't gonna happen. Career day's popping off. Ballerinas and clowns and doctors. Oh my. Freddy wants to be Batman before he got a real costume. Alan brought a gun to school. When he grows up, he wants to be the future. Margot wants to be the prize lady on game shows. And Punky wants to go to Coachella with her dog. But since they don't let dogs into Coachella, she'll settle for being an astronaut. She wants to discover new planets where she also has no parents. And Brandon wants to be the first hound to chew his ass on Mars. He says the class counted down to...
This is actually a pretty good performance by Soleil Moon Frye. I just remembered I'm making a video about very special episodes, and I have all of this already done. I could have just brought up my editing software and showed you what I have, but that's okay. We'll watch this instead.
Good people. Mike's reviewing for their tragedy midterm on the floor, because lately it seems like the further you get from the ground, the more likely it is you'll explode.
I kept hoping they'd go to a commercial. When they came back, the astronauts would be saved by Mr. T.
I pity the fool who has to raise Alan. Punky thinks they were brave. Mike agrees and tells the class they should all be proud of these courageous explorers. Alan's dad says this is going to be the end of NASA. Mike tells Alan his dad's an alcoholic. Meanwhile, a palate-cleansing B story about Henry helping Betty with a dress. One small who cares for man, one giant oh my god who cares for mankind. Knock knock. Houston, we have a cameo.
Betty Johnson, meet Buzz Aldrin.
Right after she grabs Punky. Mike says Buzz was in town for a lecture, and he told him all about Punky, and Buzz dropped everything to cheer up this emo orphan. Buzz said he heard Punky wants to be an astronaut, but now her friends think she's cray-cray. Growing up, a lot of kids called Buzz cray-cray too, but he showed all those stupid assholes. Buzz says astronauts are explorers, and explorers are often labeled loony, like Columbus when people thought the Earth was flat, or the visionary who first milked a cow and drank it. You know that guy caught some heat out of the gate. Buzz gives Punky a young astronaut shirt. She can wear it to let bullies know she loves math and science to streamline their locker shoving selection process. Brandon wants to be a young astronaut too, because he's not giving up on his dreams of zero-gravity lipstick licks. Punky concludes her blog, saying meeting Buzz Aldrin was all kinds of tits, and a little shuttle moping will not stand in the way of her plan to blast off on all her haters. So what did we learn today? Be careful what you wish for, because if you wish to one day be an astronaut, you might see a spaceship explode before the next commercial break. And the world is a scary place where sometimes good people explode for no discernible reason. But you can't let that or a room full of indecisive peers stop you from your goals. And if you're doing an episode about horrific tragedy, lead with dog magic, throw some costume kids in the middle, and close with an old guy wearing a dress. And there's nothing, and I mean nothing, that can't be fixed with a free t-shirt. See you next time on a very special episode.
It's true. There's nothing that can't be fixed with a free t-shirt. You heard the Punky episode was secretly directed by Stanley Kubrick? I love that. And that could be true. That's a conspiracy theory I can get behind. You Bats XO, $5. Thank you very much. I looked it up, and the series of 5 NASA episodes on 321 Contact was the week of October 20th, 1984. That show is a absolute banger. Let's see if we can find that. 321 Contact. Before we do that, Kevin, Zach Morris is trash for real. We've watched some Zach Morris's trash from Funny or Die before. That's a great series. Let's see here. Alrighty. October 20th. So this is an episode from October 25th, 1984. Hopefully we're going to get the 321 Contact opening. Because that is the best theme song ever. The audio's not good on this. You're going to crank it up on your device. Is the season, is the moment when everything happens. That frog. Three, two, one, contact.
You don't even know what you're talking about. What is this? You don't even know what this is.
An engine.
A what? How do you know?
An RL-10A3 engine.
Uh-huh, sure. Okay, well, what's this one then?
It's a bigger engine.
Okay, the bigger engine.
This is incredible.
Miguel, you're dreaming. If we go in there, we're going to make fools of ourselves, okay? So let's just calm down and have fun and just...
Robin, look, I really need this. This is my dream. I'll never know what's going to happen unless I try it. So let's go and find out, okay?
Okay. The thing I'm gonna let you talk me into.
Working in space.
Can I help you?
We're looking for information about how you become an astronaut.
Please, sit down. My name is Frank Hughes, and I'm in charge of flight training around here. What can we do for you?
I want to be an astronaut.
Mr. Hughes, he doesn't even know how to fly a plane.
I do too.
You do not.
Yes, I do.
No, he doesn't. No, you do.
Look,
He's a dreamer.
Well, listen, really, you don't have to fly a plane in order to be an astronaut.
What?
We have two kinds of astronauts. And
Two kinds of astronauts. You don't have to fly a plane to be an astronaut.
The pilot astronaut does have to know how to fly a plane, okay? They're jet pilots, they've been to test pilot school and so on. There's another kind of astronaut that's a scientist astronaut.
Scientist astronaut.
Can
So
you tell us
pilots
more
and
about the
scientists.
Science astronaut?
Sure. First of all, NASA calls those mission specialist astronauts now. And basically, those are people who have come to NASA from all kinds of broad scientific backgrounds. They could be medical.
I will say that the whole space thing, and I said earlier that how the Challenger explosion kind of just killed the whole idea of human, space travel, living on the moon or in space stations or whatever. But it seems like the whole space thing was such a GI generation, silent generation, even a boomer generation type of a aspiration or goal. And then once Challenger happened, like everything just turned to like tech, like computers and AI and technology here on Earth. But the whole idea of space travel and stuff has just, I don't know, it's from our culture, it used to be such a big deal. And now, like, you got Elon trying to go to Mars or whatever, and SpaceX, but it's just weird how that whole thing has changed in our lifetime. Like it's just really tapered off with Gen X and then all the younger generations.
Doctors, they could be physicists, biologists, any number of skills. For example, Sally Ride, who is our first American female astronaut in space, is one of those mission specialist astronauts.
I was at Stanford finishing up my PhD in physics, and I happened to open the newspaper one day and see an advertisement that was submitted by NASA saying that they were looking for applicants for the astronaut program. And the moment that I saw that, I flipped it out and ran over to the office at Stanford that was in charge of that and filled out my name and sent it back in.
Shit, sorry guys. Chris Baker, author, $2. 3 days after Alex Honnold climbed Taipei 101. I had muted my mic so we could hear the audio on the video better. I'm so sorry. But anyway, yeah, I could not watch this. I could not watch Free Solo. Like, I cannot watch stuff like that because literally my nerves, I cannot take it. I cannot take it. So it's amazing. Like, I don't even know what to say about that. Like, that's at a level of human achievement that I cannot comprehend in my mind. The thought of doing anything like that is just crazy. So sorry about being muted there for a second. Spitwater, $20. Thank you so much. Aspiring junior high astronaut at the time. Didn't watch it live, just heard over PA. Total days, rest of the day trying to get home to catch on TV. Wrote article for school paper. I was hooked. Still doing now as a TV reporter. That's amazing. That is awesome. Yeah, I actually watched it live. Like I said earlier, I was in the 3rd grade. But yeah, being a total daze the rest of the day, being completely just, I mean, I was in tears when my mom picked me up from school. It was just so sad. And that's amazing though, that you wrote an article for the school paper and that kind of hooked you into the world of journalism. So TV reporter now, that's amazing. I love that. What market are you in? I was a TV reporter. That's what I went to college for. So I started out in the Topeka, Kansas market, went into Kansas City market, and then the St. Louis market. So I'd love to hear where you're at. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. The government's trying to silence me. I'm trying to silence myself. I was just trying to boost the audio on this 321 Contact episode, so I thought if I muted myself, that'd make it better. But then I forgot and started talking with a muted mic. Welcome to my world.
But I really didn't think that I would get the job.
Liftoff of STS-7 and America's first woman astronaut. And the shuttle has...
This is Sally Ride's story of her first trip into space.
Roger your roll, Challenger.
The morning before launch,
ASTU in
they take us
Utah.
out to the launch pad.
Is that Salt Lake City? I lived in Orem for a long time, and so I know that they had their market was Salt Lake. But I don't think there was any other market outside of Salt Lake in Utah. That's amazing. Utah's a beautiful state to live in. I love living there.
With the goal of having us strapped into the space shuttle in our seats 2 hours before the actual launch. And then
Why,
from that
thank you.
point on, you've got about an hour and a half lying there in the chair. You're actually in orbit in 8 minutes. There's no force behind you.
I know, right?
And you're weightless. And you can tell that, and everybody does it the first time that they get up there. You just take the pencil that you've been holding and let go of it, and it stays right where you put it. But as soon as you unstrap and...
Are you asking me what kind of reporting I did, or the our commenter, our Spitwater? I did sports reporting. I was a television sports reporter for a few years.
And just let yourself out of the seat. You just float above the seat. That's really when you know that you've made it to orbit.
It's not a dry state. They have their liquor stores are run by the state. So you have to, there's only like 5 liquor stores in the state, because there's one in each county. So you can get liquor and beer, and they have the club system or whatever. But no, it's not completely dry. But I tell you what they do have in Utah, that they have spectacular cannabis in Utah. That's stuff that would come out of California. I would get the best weed in Utah. It was so good.
Weightlessness feels awkward at first, and you find that your arms and legs want to go off in different directions. They're almost floating off as if they had minds of their own. People practice doing somersaults and practice pushing.
St. George is beautiful.
And practice sitting upside down on the ceiling. But once you get
That's
used
awesome.
to it, it's a very easy environment to live in. And it's very easy to sleep in weightlessness. You know, you really just relax all your muscles, and your arms float up to about this position, and your head kind of goes like that, and you're asleep.
Challenger Houston. Good night, Sally. Good night.
So here's Challenger when Sally Ride was on it. So this is Challenger in orbit, which is kind of crazy to see.
Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
One thing that's kind of interesting about sleeping, though, is that, first of all, we're going around the Earth every 90 minutes, which means you see a sunrise and a sunset every 90 minutes. So
Wow.
day and night really doesn't have much meaning. It's very easy to fall asleep, but we would all tend to wake up maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours later, and we'd realize that it doesn't seem right to be going back to sleep. Seems like I ought to be looking out the window.
Wow. I bet that really messes up your circadian rhythms. That would be weird. That is crazy. What channel did I do sports for in KC? Well, I was in Topeka, where I was on air, WIBW and KSNT in Topeka. In Kansas City, I worked for KSMO, but I wasn't on air at KSMO. I did all of the marketing and promotions and research for all of our sports promo packages, because we aired Kansas basketball. So yeah, and then in St. Louis, I worked at Channel 11 KPLR when they had the Cardinals and the Blues. When I was at WIBW and KSNT in Topeka, I covered the Kansas City Chiefs, Kansas City Royals, Kansas Jayhawks, and Kansas State Wildcats. Yep, Channel 62, KSMO. That is correct. We'll watch a little bit more of this. A little bit. This is interesting. I like listening to Sally Ride. Is Sally Ride still alive? Let's find out. No, she died in 2012. I did not know that.
Yeah, when you look out the window, the fascination is with the Earth. the Earth is a completely new view, and it's it's beautiful. Although we were disappointed to be leaving,
We already went over this earlier.
we were really looking forward to the reentry. As the shuttle re-enters the atmosphere,
Am I a
the atmosphere
Freemason?
that it's going
No.
through ionizes all the atoms. So you look out the window and all you can see is a bright orange. During that part of the reentry, you really notice your weight coming back.
Never met Joe Namath.
John Fabian was
The
dead.
most epic, legendary sports athlete person I ever met and interviewed was Wilt Chamberlain. I interviewed him in 1998 at the 100th anniversary of KU basketball celebration. I interviewed Wilt Chamberlain, Dean Smith, Roy Williams, like all of the Kansas basketball elites and greats, and then all the current guys that were there at the time, of course. But never Namath. Am I Catholic? No. I am Protestant.
Next to me during reentry, holding a regular camera, just a small camera, and he turned to me about halfway down.
We literally just talked about this. We showed pictures, we showed photos, we talked, and all the other doppelganger photos. We literally just did this.
This camera weighs 100 pounds, and made me hold it. And he was right. It was hard to hold up the camera.
So everything looks good on all the runways out here. It's your call.
Look at that.
Okay, 500 feet, 230 at 8.
When you actually are in the last part of the landing, you feel very heavy. It's not hard to move, but you just feel heavy. And when you actually land and unstrap and try and stand up for the first time, you feel like you're not going to be able to stand up.
Interesting.
Roger, we see that. Congratulations, a great looking landing.
When you first land, you feel almost like your head is spinning. And that lasts for probably only about 10 or 15 minutes.
That's crazy.
And your heart rate almost doubles for probably 15 minutes or a half hour, depending on the person. After we got out of the shuttle and we're walking back out to the airplane to take us back to Houston, I was walking next to Rick Houck, who was the pilot on the flight, and he and I looked out over the desert and we could see the space shuttle sitting there right where we had left it, out on the lake bed, and we both just kind of looked at each other and said, "This isn't the same. We're back on Earth." I can't believe we did that. And
Did you do sports as well, or are you news? That's a good story. I have a lot of good stories from my reporting days.
Both looked at each other and we both tried jumping, and came right back down to the ground. Whereas 2 hours earlier, if we had jumped, we would have floated right up to the ceiling and probably hit our heads on the roof. So that
I remember it well. It's almost like we should watch the Super Bowl Shuffle before we end this stream.
That was the first sense that we got that it's over.
Cancer.
Astronauts appear to be weightless.
Well, there you go. Okay. We're getting way off topic here. Okay. Started in sports, then newspapers, foray into PR, then back to news for TV this time. You have a very similar story to a lot of my friends that went into journalism. It was a fun profession. I didn't like working for the corporate overlords, which is why I ran away from it. Okay, guys. What do you think? Do we want to watch one more news report about it, or do we want to just call it a day? Well, let's watch one more news report. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Let's do Challenger launch. Try one more thing about it. We'll watch the AP coverage. Boom. So for those of you that weren't here earlier, we're going to watch the launch one more time.
Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Roger, Challenger.
Well, thank you for randomly landing here. Hope to see you again soon.
Good roll program confirmed. Challenger now heading down range.
If you got a clip, you've had a link for me.
Engines beginning throttling down now at 94%. Normal throttles for most of the flight, 104%. We'll throttle down to 65% shortly. Engines at 65%. 3 engines running normally. 3 good fuel cells. 3 good APUs. Velocity 2,257 feet per second. Altitude 4.3 nautical miles. Downrange distance 3 nautical miles. Engines throttling up. 3 engines now at 104%. Challenger, go at throttle up. Challenger, go at throttle up.
Here we go.
1 minute 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles. Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction. We have no downlink.
Just stare at it in disbelief. Just watch it fall.
We have a report from the flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded. Flight director confirms that. We are looking at checking with the recovery forces to see what can be done at this point.
All right. Let's go over to NBC News.
Space Center, the Johnson Space Center in Houston, and correspondent Dan Molina. Dan, what information do you have? What can you tell us there?
John, an absolutely numbing sight. It's very difficult to express anything at this point other than the information that we're getting from NASA. The word that we got, as you got, was simply a very, very straightforward, bland, emotionless statement from Steve Nesbitt, the NASA commentator, is that he said we have a report that the vehicle has exploded. Words that just startle everybody to the point of absolute non-belief, but you saw the pictures as we did. There is no doubting the fact that there was an extremely serious explosion. Whether anybody survived or not is a matter for conjecture at this point. There were, of course, 7 crew members on board Challenger. Francis Dick Scobie was the mission commander, a man of great experience, logging more than 6,500 hours in 45 different types of aircraft. The pilot, Michael Smith, Judith Resnick, Dr. Judith Resnick was on that crew, Ronald McNair, Ellison Onizuka, Greg Jarvis, and Sharon Krista McCullough. We have no information right now other than the information which has come down from NASA commentary. We have requested, of course, more information, but everybody is trying to find out themselves what has happened, and they are not offering us any more elaboration on this, what is apparently an extremely serious occurrence, perhaps a disaster of major proportions. There seemed to be, as we watched the explosion, no time for the crew to use any of the ejection devices which they have available to them. We are always mindful, a system attached to a space shuttle during launch to explode it on command should the shuttle go haywire and fly over a populated area. That is a sort of a doomsday device that's attached to the shuttle's fuel system, and it could be triggered from the ground or from the spacecraft itself. Now, I'm not at all implying that that went haywire in this case, and there was some inadvertent tripping of that system. However, there is such a system attached to the shuttle, and it could have been involved in something like this. They were about a minute away from the point where they would have separated the solid rocket boosters from the shuttle. That is an explosive process in and of itself. But they weren't even near that point, near in the sense of the amount of time in which things happen. Things happen very quickly, of course, during a launch sequence, and they weren't really near the point where that small explosive devices would have gone off and separated the solid rocket boosters from the orbiter. So it can only be conjecture at this point as to what would have happened. As we say, 7 crew members on board, and including Krista McAuliffe, and the people who are watching at the Cape at this point, the spectators, all of the people in launch control, all of the people in mission control, as well as all of us watching right here, are simply find ourselves startled, and we are, I am told, going to take a look back at the crew getting on board the shuttle this morning. This is a shot in the so-called white room. The white room is pressed up against the side of the shuttle's hatch, and it's through that hatch that the crew settles themselves into to their seats for launch. We see by the hatch there Ron McNair nodding his head, waiting for one of the other crew members to get themselves seated. Krista McAuliffe is in the foreground with Greg Jarvis. She, at that point, obviously happy, eager. It looked this morning as though things were running along smoothly. There was a delay because of ice.
There was a delay because of ice. Yes, there was. All right, we got a request for KNBC's coverage. Let's watch a few minutes of that.
This is a special report from Channel 4 News. Good morning, I'm Ken Shocknick, and Space Shuttle Challenger is just a few seconds away from blasting off from the Kennedy Space Center near Cape Canaveral, Florida. Let's take a look right now. Challenger finally getting ready to leave KSC. Its launch delayed a couple of times because of weather and mechanical problems.
T-minus 15 seconds.
The voice of launch control, Hugh Harris of NASA.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Challenger going into its roll. That's planned.
Good roll program.
Spiral away from pad 39B, the first use of pad 39B since the old Apollo days and the Skylab missions. It's chilly in Florida. Icicles formed on the pad overnight. NASA engineers are concerned that they might have broken off during the launch and affected the fragile heat protection tiles that protect the shuttle on its way back in during re-entry.
We'll throttle down to 65% shortly.
Don't know what the effect might be just yet. The astronauts will take a look later on during the mission.
Engines at 65%, 3 engines running normally, 3 good fuel cells, 3 good APUs.
APUs, the auxiliary power units.
2,257 feet per second. Altitude 4.3 nautical miles, downrange distance 3 nautical miles.
It's always amazing to hear how quickly the shuttle moves. It's already more than 4 miles downwind as we get started.
Engines throttling up, 3 engines now at 104%.
Challenger, go with throttle up.
Here it comes.
The shuttle mission will launch, my God,
1 minute 15
there's been an explosion.
Velocity 2,900 feet per second, altitude 9 nautical miles, downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
This is not standard. This is not something that is planned, of course. I can see a solid rocket booster has broken away from Shuttle Challenger. That's what you're looking at in the middle of your screen. I cannot see the shuttle itself. I don't know if it's able to continue on one rocket booster. If it's able to jettison that rocket booster, it will be able to return to the Kennedy Space Center. Perhaps the shuttle engines are not enough to power the shuttle back down. They would have to shut down.
Looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
I hope they were able to survive. I hope the astronauts
We have no downlink.
We have absolutely no sign at all of the shuttle itself. All we saw was that one explosion only about a minute
This is
into
a
the flight,
fantastic point.
and we saw the solid rocket booster. Now, here's something coming down. I don't know what that is. I don't think that that's the shuttle. I believe that's a piece of debris that's coming back earthbound. I don't know. It's too small for the shuttle itself.
Same.
Pieces falling out of the sky in the Florida morning. It's about 20 till noon in Florida. There are contingency plans for the shuttle
not
when
Reagan,
something
the
does
people
go
at
wrong, when
NASA
something
that
goes terribly
cleared-
We have a report from the flight dynamics officer that
The launch was delayed several times, and they were trying to push it through and make it happen so they could get Krista McAuliffe's lessons done during a school day. It's a whole mess.
vehicle has exploded. Flight director confirms that. We are looking at checking with the recovery forces to see what can be done at this point.
8:40, and we hear from launch control, the vehicle has exploded. That's the orbiter itself, the shuttle Challenger, has exploded. We
Contingency procedures are in effect.
assume that the crew is not alive. This is unheralded in the history of the space program. Ladies and gentlemen, I have covered the space shuttle launches since the very first launch, since before the first launch itself, going way back, and nothing like this has ever happened. Of course, there was the Apollo fire on the ground at the Kennedy Space Center, the Apollo 1 fire that killed 3 astronauts during a test run back in the 60s. But the shuttle program itself, to this time, has been untouched by any human problem.
There you go. That was a good one. That was the only time I've ever seen anybody get that like right off the jump that something bad had happened immediately. So that was good. Let's go back to NBC because as a Gen Xer, I need a little Tom Brokaw in my life. Let's see where he comes on here.
Obviously a major malfunction. That's the understatement of the year, perhaps, as this shuttle blew up as it was attempting to go into space today about 2 minutes downrange. At one point, we heard that it was 4.5 miles high at that point. There were no ejection seats whatsoever. There was no way for those astronauts to escape. There's been no confirmation on their fate, but of course, it looks very much as if there was no hope whatsoever for that 7-person crew, including 2 women, and that includes the school teacher,
Nice.
Krista
Thanks for
McAuliffe
that
from Concord, New
recommendation.
Hampshire. Her school students and other students at that school today were assembled in an auditorium to watch all of this, tragically. And of course, the teachers began to suspect that something was wrong when
I
they
can
saw
find
what we
Koppel
all
if you
saw,
want
and they
some
heard the
Koppel.
kids back into the classroom. It will be a dark memory for them.
Days, and her crewmates treat her like one of the gang. This was a little trek up to break the sound barrier with Dick Scobie, her mission commander.
They could have very easily said, oh, there's a teacher, what are we going to do with her? She's going to get in the way, or we've got to plan things around her. If I needed help during the lessons, if I needed an extra pair of hands, I mean, they've just been so wonderful. I really do feel part of the crew.
For several months now, doctors have been jabbing and probing her, zipping her up in black.
There is no Koppel on here. There's not even a Brokaw or there's not even a Jennings or a Rather. It looks like the only night primetime guy that came in was Brokaw. I'm trying to find Rather or Jennings.
Bags to see if small dark places scare her. She's gone through all sorts of training in shuttle simulators, and she's learned a few cold, hard facts about what to expect.
I didn't realize it was so slippery.
The shuttle's small. And if you kind of think of it as being in maybe a 6-man tent with 7 people in it, and it rains for 6 days, that's the environment that you're in.
It's all a very big change from life in Concord, New Hampshire. This was the day she left home for 4.5 months of training. It seemed especially tough to say goodbye to her daughter, Caroline.
Love you. All right. See you later, alligator.
Okay, let's get dinner ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Life without mother in the McAuliffe household. A new adventure for Krista's husband, Steve, an attorney.
This is brutal. This is brutal. The one thing I have not mentioned is Krista's kids, really all of their kids, all of their Gen X kids, losing a parent that day. I can't even imagine. And especially for Krista, like this is just brutal.
Okay. Frozen cook. Open that thing up.
He's doing a super job. I mean, he took over single parenting without missing a beat. The kids are doing well. He's doing well. I mean, he's doing so well that when I came home the last time, I walked in the kitchen to do something, and he kind of looked and he said, "Excuse me." He said, "We don't do that way anymore." I said, "Pardon me."
She's part astronaut now, but still a teacher first. There's an elaborate plan for her to teach from space and to hook up a direct link with her old school. Much of the country will see this ultimate field trip, and Krista says it's just the kind of recognition teachers need.
And because they feel so good about themselves and the morale is high, I'm hoping that other people are going to look at that and say, they do a very important job.
Yeah, poor
She'll
husband,
earn a
too.
place in
That's a good
history
point.
when Challenger lifts off. She'll be a celebrity for a while. Then it'll all be over. Krista McCullough will be back in New Hampshire, back in her classroom, but she'll always be known as the teacher in space. Dan Molina, NBC News at the Johnson Space Center, Houston.
And it now appears, of course, that Krista McCullough could very well be remembered as a teacher who died in space. We have no confirmation of that, but there is no indication that there is any life that has been spotted among that 7-person crew today. McCullough's husband, Stephen, and her 2 small children, Scott and Caroline, were among the spectators at Cape Canaveral today to view the launch, what looked perfect for about 2 minutes, and then tragedy struck. The ramifications of this tragedy we can't yet realize, of course, this early on, but of course it is an enormous tragedy for the McCullough family, for the families of the other astronauts. It throws into grave doubt the future of the space shuttle program, which has been troubled recently. And of course, NASA will come under a great deal of criticism for this public relations effort that it has been making to get regular citizens into space. There's been a program for journalists that is now under consideration.
Wow.
Recently, Congressman Bill Nelson of Florida completed a trip. Before that, Senator Jake Garn of Utah went up. This program for teachers was announced by President Reagan during the course of his presidential campaign in 1984. Some people believe that it was an effort to win both the support of teachers and women, in that a woman teacher was picked for the experience. He said, in his defense, that he thought it would be an effort to share the space program with the children of this country so that teachers could share their educational skills after they have completed this trip. We have nothing further from NASA at this point. For those of you who are just joining us, the Space Shuttle Challenger today blew up about 4.5 miles downrange, about 2 minutes after its launch. John Palmer is in New York today. John, do you have any additional information for us there?
Not really, Tom. Of course, we're all waiting for the same thing, the fate of the 7 astronauts aboard the Challenger, but we do know that 3 Coast Guard cutters, 2 rescue helicopters are now on the scene. The area where the splashdown took place, so at least we don't know how much of the shuttle Challenger was intact when it went into the Atlantic Ocean, but that position is given anywhere from 12.5 to perhaps 28 miles off the shore. There are no U.S. Navy ships, we are told, in position there, but again, 3 Coast Guard cutters and 2 rescue helicopters. And a little bit earlier, we saw that parachute in the sky. That was one of the paramedics bailing out there over the scene. Again, as Tom said, and as we have heard several times now, the explosion took place about a minute or minute and 15 seconds to be exact into the flight. All appeared to be going well. And then there was that tremendous, brilliant flash, the explosion. And we had 2 contrails, one going one way and one the other. One apparently the solid rocket dropping into the sea, the other the Space Shuttle Challenger. Earlier this morning, the delays were caused by the freezing conditions down in Florida. There were icicles, some people said as long as 2 feet, hanging from parts of the spacecraft, and there was a condensation problem, and they were a little bit afraid, and they delayed because they thought might cause a problem of chipping of some of those sensitive tiles on the spacecraft.
They should have been a lot afraid. Let's go over to ABC. Well, I had it. Hold on.
Challenger, go with throttle up.
The Space Shuttle Challenger is destroyed just a little more than 1 minute after liftoff.
1 minute, 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles.
All 7 astronauts on board are killed.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Tonight, reporting from Washington.
It is the worst disaster in the history of the American space program, and President Reagan has declared a week of mourning for the 7 astronauts, 5 men and 2 women, who lost their lives on their way into space this morning. Now, we know that many of you have heard the news many hours ago and may even have seen some of our extended coverage this afternoon. But many others of you, we surmise, have been at work, and thus we're going to spend virtually our entire broadcast this evening on what is not only a crushingly sad day for families, friends, and colleagues of the astronauts, but also an enormous shock to the...
Yeah, I showed photos of those icicles on my video that I made. I'm gonna probably play my video that I made about this one more time before I leave the live coverage for those of you that weren't here earlier. I go through and show some of the photos of how bad the ice was, how cold it was that morning. They had no business launching that day. No business.
Manned space program, which before today had gone so well. Never before have American lives been lost in flight. We will try to answer many of your questions, but as of this evening, many questions remain unanswered. We begin at Cape Canaveral with ABC's John Quinones.
They gathered for what turned out to be their last meal at 6:48 this morning, the ceremonial breakfast. For months, they had trained together. Astronaut Ellison Onizuka from Hawaii, the star of this mission, New Hampshire schoolteacher Krista McAuliffe, mission commander Dick Scobie, pilot Michael Smith, astronauts Judith Resnick and Ronald McNair, and payload specialist Gregory Jarvis. After 3 days of delays, they appeared tired, but quickly rejuvenated by applause as they headed for the launch pad.
Scobie, followed by mission specialist Judy Resnick, Ron McNair, pilot Mike Smith, followed by Krista McAuliffe, teacher in space, Ellison Onizuka, and payload specialist Greg Jarvis.
Final preparations before liftoff. The ground crew gives McAuliffe an apple for the teacher, and wishes of good luck. Initially, liftoff was scheduled for 9:38 this morning, but again there were problems. A hard freeze overnight left ice on the launch pad, a 2-hour delay, and then NASA discovers a faulty fire detector on board the shuttle, another hour's delay while it's replaced. Finally, the liftoff was set for 11:38. A crowd of some 500 spectators, including 18 visiting school children from McAuliffe's hometown of Concord, New Hampshire, waited anxiously and then counted down. The liftoff appeared flawless. The spectators, including Krista McAuliffe's parents, Grace and Edward Corrigan, watched proudly through tears of joy. 65 seconds into flight, NASA Control orders Commander Scobie to go to full power.
Challenger, go at throttle up. Roger, go at throttle up.
Suddenly, an explosion.
Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
NASA loses all communication with Challenger, but the crowd still does not realize that something's gone wrong. Within seconds, Challenger disintegrates.
We have a report from the flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded.
For the spectators and Krista McAuliffe's parents, joy turns to confusion, worry, and a realization of tragedy. The $1.2 billion spaceship, its 7 crew members, and
her parents were there. There were kids from her school that were there, and it was bad. But they couldn't tell because when you're in that viewing area, you're again. As I said earlier, I've been there. I watched the launch of Discovery the summer before. And that area is about 5 miles away from the launch site. So, you can see very well, but once it launches up and, it's going, miles away from the earth, it gets hard to see. So when you're on that viewing area, those people could not tell that it had exploded like we could see it on television because of the close up of the camera. So it was really sad. At first they didn't realize. And there's also footage of Barbara Morgan watching it and then freaking out. And again, I show a lot of that in the video that I made about it, and which I'll play again here in a bit.
Their satellite payload disappeared.
I thought the flight was going fine.
Yeah, our kids and our husband were there.
I heard them say major malfunction. And then the person beside me said it's exploded. And I couldn't speak. It was.
Within minutes, emergency rescue teams parachuted in, converging on a search area 18 miles east of Cape Canaveral.
Debris continued to fall for 50 minutes and more, and obviously you can't send aircraft and ships into an area where debris is falling, where they themselves may be endangered.
Late this afternoon, after 6 hours of searching, NASA reports they found no survivors.
All right. Yeah, again, we talked about the conspiracy theories earlier. Like, we went through it. I get it. Please stop spamming my chat. Like, and and I get it. It's, there's some weird stuff about all that, but we already went through it, and like, you just keep spamming my chat. So please stop. Thank you.
These searches have not revealed any evidence that the crew of Challenger survived.
Tonight, NASA and Cape Canaveral are in mourning. Tonight at Cape Canaveral, Vice President George Bush, accompanied by Senators Jake Garn and John Glenn, both former astronauts, expressed the nation's condolences to the families of the astronauts. Bush had a special message for American school children.
You must try to understand that spirit, bravery, and commitment are what make not only the space program, but all of life worthwhile. We must never, as people in our daily lives or as a nation, stop exploring, stop hoping, stop discovering. We must press on.
John Quinones, ABC News, Cape Canaveral.
This whole concept of a teacher in space has been important to the country, but especially to the children, as the vice president alluded, ever since President Reagan in 1984 suggested there be a teacher in space. It was going to be a very big day in Krista McAuliffe's hometown of Concord, New Hampshire, and especially at the high school where she taught. ABC's Jay Shadler was there.
Krista McAuliffe's students and friends at Concord High School were ready to watch a dream come true this morning.
Oh!
Instead, they became witnesses to a nightmare.
I lied. He was a senator then, yes. He was a senator from 74 to 99. I didn't think he was a senator until I thought he was just a senator during the 90s. So that was my bad. I should have looked before I answered.
One, and liftoff. In the moments after the launch, their celebrations drowned out the first news of the tragedy. But the clamor turned to quiet as this picture burned itself into their memories.
Reports from the flight dynamics officer indicate that the vehicle apparently exploded and that impact in the water.
Some people were covering their eyes, and some people were just watching the TV set with a blank look on their face.
It was really quite dramatic. At first, everyone was really happy, all these smiles, and then suddenly you saw a lot of people crying in the halls, and it was really pretty sad.
Just moments before, Eileen O'Hara, Krista McAuliffe's good friend and classroom substitute, had shared this haunting sentiment with a local reporter.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to watch because I want her to be safe and I want her to have fun.
Now the public celebration had turned into private mourning and shock.
She was a part of us. She was part of a family. And it's like, if your sister or brother died, she'll be remembered. It was the hell. The hell.
Though Krista McAuliffe's students and friends have known her here in Concord for years, she became known to the nation when she decided to pursue her dreams. Those dreams have been sparked by President Reagan's announcement a year ago for a teacher astronaut. The search for that history maker brought 11,000 applications, but only one made the final grade.
And the winner, the teacher who will be going into space, Krista McAuliffe.
From the outset, she approached this mission and her training with the same ideals she brought to the classroom.
Well, it was a challenge, and it was something that I always ask my students, to go and seek whatever they feel they can do and reach a little higher.
She wore her spirit on her face, and her hometown loved it. Now they are remembering it. A special counselor will be brought to Concord High tomorrow to help students begin dealing with their loss. But perhaps Krista McAuliffe's own words echo the best advice.
To follow your instincts and go for your dreams, and I hope they achieve that.
Jay Shadler, ABC News, Concord, New Hampshire.
When Challenger was 10 miles up and 18 miles downrange and that explosion occurred, we all knew a great deal about Krista McAuliffe, but we've become so accustomed
to the shuttle going up and coming down now that the other astronauts on board were just...
Yep, there was a TV movie about this, and I talk about that in my video. I'm a couple hours into the stream now, and I'm going to have to wrap this up. I'm going to wrap it up by playing my video about this again. It gives you a little bit of information about the lead up to it, and then what happened after, and then what happened to the Teacher in Space program and how that ended a few years later, and Barbara Morgan. So if you haven't watched my video yet, this is your chance to see all the information that I shared. And I really thank you guys for joining me today and sharing all of your stories about what you remember from that day. And yeah, it's been, it's just crazy that it's been 40 years. It doesn't seem possible. But yeah. Thank you very, very much, guys. And remember, over on my Discord, let me put my Discord link into the chat so you can come join my Discord if you'd like, because I can do stuff over on my Discord without any copyright problems. So let me get to my invite link. Paste. There you go. So there's my Discord link. Over there on Monday nights, I do Monday Night at the Movies. On Wednesday nights, we're watching Little House on the Prairie in order. On Thursday nights, we're watching The Incredible Hulk in order. We just started, and we're going to be watching different stuff throughout the year. So, and there's no copyright issues or anything. It's just like a fun watch along. So go join my Discord. It's completely free. On Tuesday nights, I do a channel member book club. We're reading the book Generations by William Strauss and Neil Howe. And it's all about the origins of Generation X and our place in the world, which is pretty great. And on Friday nights, I do my so-called live stream on Friday nights where we just have a hangout and watch old stuff and have a lot of laughs. And then I also have a new video coming out in the next couple of days about ABC after school specials that I think you're going to really like. So that's what I got going on. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, sharing your stories. And I'm going to bring up my video one more time so you guys can see the work that I did on this topic. Let me bring it up. And yeah, thank you for watching and for supporting my channel. I super appreciate it. Let me get to, all right. Share this tab. And I shall push play. And thank you guys. I will hope to see you on Discord tonight at 7 o'clock.
I don't think any teacher has ever been more ready.
Thanks, guys.
To have 2 lessons in my life. I've been preparing these since September, and I just hope everybody tunes in on day 4 now to watch the teacher teaching from space.
January 28th, 1986 is the day that pretty much every American Gen Xer remembers. That morning, millions of school children from elementary to high school were gathered in classrooms, auditoriums, and gymnasiums in schools across the country to watch the launch of the Space Shuttle Challenger on TVs rolled in on carts. But 73 seconds after that launch, disaster occurred. The shuttle broke apart in an explosion, killing all 7 crew members on board. So what exactly happened, and why were millions of Gen Xers watching it live from school? The Space Shuttle program began in the 1970s, with NASA designing a reusable spacecraft for low Earth orbit missions, including satellite deployment, scientific experiments, and International Space Station support. 4 operational orbiters were originally built. They were Columbia, Discovery, Atlantis, and Challenger. The first space shuttle to launch was Columbia on April 12, 1981. And over the next 5 years, 24 successful shuttle missions were completed, including 9 by Challenger. Challenger first flew in April of 1983 and was key in the shuttle program for satellite launches and space lab missions. Its second flight in June of 83 had a crew that included the first American woman in space, which was, of course, Sally Ride. A quick personal story here. In June of 1985, my parents took my brother and I to Cape Canaveral, Florida, to watch the launch of Discovery. We had to get up super early, and it took hours to get to the watch site, but it was quite the experience for a 7-year-old. The watch site was about 3 miles away from the launch pad, and you had to take a special bus to the site, and there were bleachers that you sat on to watch the launch. They also had loudspeakers so you could hear mission control. After watching Discovery take off, I remember going back to the Kennedy Space Center and seeing a big digital sign that had the upcoming launch schedule for the rest of the year. Challenger was the next one to go up that summer, and in fact, there were 5 more launches in the second half of 1985. At the time, NASA faced intense schedules. There were 15 launches planned for 1986. There was also political pressure to justify funding and to demonstrate program success, which included the new Teacher in Space initiative. In 1984, President Ronald Reagan announced the Teacher in Space project to inspire students, honor educators, and promote interest in space exploration.
Today, I'm directing NASA to begin a search in all of our elementary and secondary schools and to choose as the first citizen passenger in the history of our space program one of America's finest, a teacher.
The goal was to send the first private citizen into space, a teacher who would conduct lessons from orbit, demonstrate the effects of microgravity, and share the experience of spaceflight. Here's a little interesting fact. Before it was decided that a teacher was going to space, NASA briefly considered the idea of Big Bird being on board the shuttle. According to Carol Spinney's autobiography, The Wisdom of Big Bird and the Dark Genius of Oscar the Grouch, Lessons from a Life in Feathers, NASA informally approached him about the possibility of including Big Bird in the Teacher in Space project for the Challenger mission to capture young audiences' attention. But the concept was quickly dismissed due to practical challenges. The Big Bird costume, standing over 8 feet tall and requiring Spinney to operate it with one hand raised, was deemed incompatible with the shuttle's confined space and safety requirements. After President Reagan announced the Teacher in Space project, NASA received over 11,000 applications.
School teachers with wide eyes and big grins are learning the ropes at Johnson Space Center, all in hope of becoming the school teacher, the one which will fly aboard a spaceship.
The teachers are here to learn, but it is clear one thing they already know. Each wants to go to space.
Of course, they all wanted to go to space before, but now that the possibility of that is very real, well, just ask the teachers.
I think there's a lot out there that we don't have and we don't know. I think that we're only beginning to scratch the surface of what in reality is the new frontier.
The future is there. It really is. And this is just the first step. This is like man leaving his cradle. He's going to go out to the stars. I really think we're going to get there someday.
And I want to do this so that I can come back and just give some of these experiences to my kids.
These are the space-age people. Their children are going to be possibly living on space stations. They're going to have all of these new frontiers. And for teachers to come back with that excitement, I think they're really going to benefit from it. Do you remember when they sent the first chimpanzee up on that rocket? Well, I thought it should have been an elementary school kid named Barbara Raddick. I really wanted to be the one up there, and I've been interested ever since.
But the thing I can do out there, and that's get kids excited to watch out there and see why this frontier is so valuable.
To be up there, to look back at the planet Earth, it's an ultimate trip. It's the ultimate experience of a lifetime.
My students are going to benefit from it. I'm going to benefit from it. Other teachers with whom I work will benefit.
And when one teacher circles the globe next January, millions of kids around the country are going to be looking up to teachers in more ways than one.
The children entering kindergarten this fall are going to be in the job market through the first half of the 21st century. And I want to make sure a teacher's there to help convey to educators what skills are needed to help those children survive in that kind of future.
NASA officials will pick a finalist and a runner-up before the end of the month. The winner will go to space in January.
After months of testing and rigorous evaluations, they narrowed the field down to 10 finalists, who then underwent even more testing and interviews. On July 19th, 1985, Vice President George H.W. Bush announced the winner. NASA chose a 37-year-old social studies teacher from Concord High School in Concord, New Hampshire, named Krista McAuliffe.
Winner, the teacher who will be going into space, Krista McAuliffe. Where's that you?
I've made 9 wonderful friends over the last 2 weeks. And when that shuttle goes, they might be one body. But there's going to be 10 souls that I'm taking with me. Thank you.
That's great.
I went for something that I felt I had really no chance in. I decided to overextend a bit and fill in an application that I knew thousands and thousands of people were going to be filling in. But it was important for me because it was something that I really wanted to do. And I hope that a lot of students looking at that will say, well, I know 80 people are going to try out for this team, but it's something that I really want to do, and not to be afraid of failure.
McAuliffe's application emphasized her ability to connect with students and her vision to humanize the space experience. Her proposal, titled The Ultimate Field Trip, aimed to make space accessible by documenting her journey in a journal and sharing it with classrooms. When McAuliffe was named the winner, it meant that she had to take a break from teaching and commit to 1 year with NASA to train for the shuttle mission, and then months of speaking engagements and public appearances after she returned from the mission. While on board Challenger, McAuliffe planned to deliver 2 15-minute live lessons from space, broadcast to classrooms across the United States via PBS as part of NASA's educational outreach. Her lessons were designed to engage students in grades K through 12 by showcasing real-time experiments in microgravity. She also planned to give students a tour of the shuttle and a chance to see the crew in action. McAuliffe was officially named as part of the crew for Challenger's 10th flight, known as STS-51-L. And this is why millions of American schoolchildren were watching on that day in January of 1986. Due to weather and technical issues, Challenger's launch was delayed multiple times. On the morning of January 28th, the temperature had dropped near freezing in Florida and icicles had formed the launch pad.
Good morning, Bob. It is cold here. It is Long John weather at the Cape. NASA has had launches in sub-freezing weather before, but never from the shuttle program, and there is some concern about the effect of these cold temperatures. Primarily, they're looking at a buildup of ice on the outside of the external fuel tank, which is loaded with hydrogen and oxygen at very low temperatures. Meanwhile, the crew is going through the routine of having breakfast just before they take them out to the pad. This will be the second countdown for what's going to be known as the teacher flight, because it will feature lessons to be taught a little bit later by Krista McAuliffe, the school teacher from New Hampshire.
The original plan for that day was to try to launch at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, but once again it was delayed. This time, though, it was just for a couple of hours. After the weather warmed up and the technical issues were seemingly fixed, the countdown finally reached 0 and Challenger launched at 11:38 a.m. Eastern Time.
8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
I was in my 3rd grade classroom with my teacher and fellow students watching on a 19-inch CRT television that had been rolled in. And since I considered myself to be a shuttle expert, having seen one launch in person, 8-year-old me was giving everyone in my class a space lesson, Punky Brewster style, as the shuttle left the launch pad. 73 seconds after that launch, I saw something that I hadn't seen the previous summer when my family and I watched Discovery.
Challenger, go and throttle up. Roger, go and throttle up.
1 minute, 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles. Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
Seeing that giant fireball and the 2 lines of smoke, I just knew something wasn't right. We all sat there in silence. The teachers didn't say a word. And then we heard Mission Control confirm that the shuttle had exploded.
We have no downlink. This is Mission Control Houston. We have no additional word at this time. Reports from the flight dynamics officer indicate that the vehicle apparently exploded and that impact in the water.
At that point, my teacher turned off the TV and rolled it out of the room. We went to lunch and then went back to our regular schoolwork that afternoon. At one point in the day, the principal came in and told us that none of the astronauts had survived.
When they posed, it was like a portrait of America. Men and women, war veterans and first-time astronauts, parents, and even a classical pianist. Their commander was Francis Scobie, age 46, from Washington State, an astronaut after 22 years in the Air Force. This was his second shuttle mission. Second in command, pilot Michael Smith, age 40, a decorated Navy pilot from North Carolina. Like Scobie, he'd seen combat in Vietnam and trained as a test pilot. And like the commander, he was a husband and father. This was Smith's first shuttle mission. Mission specialist Ellison Onizuka was the first Hawaiian astronaut who believed in the benefits of the space program.
There are a lot of outcomes from these projects which will affect both our society and the rest of the world.
Onizuka is survived by his wife and 2 daughters. 36-year-old mission specialist Judy Resnick was a shuttle veteran, her assignment to operate the shuttle's mechanical arm. She was on board the shuttle Discovery in 1984 when a launch was aborted after the engines had fired. Gregory Jarvis was on board to conduct tests on the effects of weightlessness on liquids carried in tanks. Born in Detroit, trained as an Air Force satellite engineer, Jarvis was on his first shuttle mission. Ronald McNair, age 36, from South Carolina, brought a background in physics and laser technology to the shuttle program. This was the second trip to space for a husband and father who saw space travel as a calling for mankind.
I see it as something that we must do, and I see it as something that's part of man's nature to explore.
These 6, along with Krista McAuliffe, the first teacher in space, now a tragic page in NASA history.
When my mom picked me up from school that day, I was in tears. When we got home, we watched the news coverage on all the networks and CNN, but it would take months before the truth about what happened was revealed. The primary cause of the Challenger disaster was the failure of an O-ring seal in the right solid rocket booster. Cold weather at the time of the launch, which was 36 degrees Fahrenheit, caused the O-ring to become brittle, losing its ability to seal properly. After launch, hot gases escaped from the solid rocket booster joint, damaging the external fuel tank, leading to a structural failure. What we came to find out was that engineers had raised concerns about O-ring seals in solid rocket boosters in cold weather as early as 1977. But those concerns were downplayed. The shuttle was destroyed by aerodynamic forces, not an explosion. The fireball we saw was from ignited fuel. The crew cabin separated and fell into the Atlantic Ocean, with impact occurring about 2 minutes and 45 seconds later. Evidence suggested that the crew survived the initial breakup, but likely lost consciousness due to depressurization before the cabin hit the ocean. No definitive evidence confirms they were conscious during the descent. Quick side note number 2, there is quite the conspiracy theory surrounding the astronauts and what happened to the crew cabin in the aftermath of this tragedy. This video isn't the right place to talk about it, but I had to mention it. And I put some links in the description if you're interested. I can't help myself. I'm a conspiracy theory girl. Anyways, there was an investigation from the Rogers Commission into the Challenger disaster, with key findings pointing to the O-ring failure exacerbated by the cold weather, plus some organizational issues at NASA. That pressure to maintain launch schedules was a big deal, and the disaster led to increased scrutiny of NASA's decision processes and the safety culture. After the Challenger tragedy, NASA suspended space shuttle launches for 32 months. They also made some design changes to the solid rocket boosters, and NASA implemented stricter safety protocols. But holy crap, they learned absolutely nothing from the Challenger disaster, it seems to me. The shuttle program resumed on September 29, 1988, with the launch of Discovery. And over the next 2 decades, there were 110 more shuttle launches. They even built a new shuttle to replace the Challenger called the Endeavour. The packed schedules and the pressure to launch never subsided, and the new safety protocols were eventually taken for granted. On February 1st, 2003, the space shuttle Columbia disintegrated during re-entry over Texas, killing all 7 crew members. The space shuttle program officially came to an end in July of 2011 due to cost and safety concerns, plus the fact that NASA had an aging fleet. The shuttles had been operational since 1981. As for the Challenger, in the aftermath of that disaster, President Reagan spoke to the country from the Oval Office on the evening of January 28th, instead of giving his scheduled State of the Union address, and gave us one of the most memorable lines from his presidency.
The crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger honored us for the manner in which they lived their lives. We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them, this morning, as they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye, and slipped the surly bonds of earth to touch the face of God.
A few weeks later, a very special episode of Punky Brewster aired addressing the Challenger disaster to help Gen X kids cope with what they had witnessed. Meanwhile, the movie Space Camp, which was filmed in the summer of 1985, was released in April of 1986, unfortunate timing, and completely bombed at the box office due to the Challenger disaster. And then in 1990, a made-for-TV movie titled Challenger, starring Karen Allen as Krista McAuliffe, aired on ABC. The film focused on her selection as the teacher in space, her training, and the emotional impact of the disaster on her family and students.
Sunday.
Krista, how do you feel? I feel good.
They were America's hope for the future.
What's it like to be up there in space? You don't want to come back.
The commander and the pilot, backed up by a team of 3 mission specialists, a civilian from Hughes Aircraft, and a school teacher named Krista McAuliffe.
You're not scared. Neither am I.
That's the way you have to feel when you're an astronaut. Karen Allen, Barry Boston.
You're a wonderful crew. All right, that's great.
Challenger, Sunday at 8, 7 Central.
One final note about Challenger. I need to mention that there was another teacher named Barbara Morgan who was selected as McAuliffe's alternate for the Teacher in Space project. Morgan trained alongside McAuliffe every step of the way. And then after McAuliffe's death, Morgan took over the educational outreach responsibilities that were intended for McAuliffe. These included public speaking engagements, educational consulting, and curriculum design. Morgan returned to teaching after fulfilling those commitments, but then in the late 90s, she was accepted into the NASA program, and in 2007, Morgan flew on the Space Shuttle Endeavour, the orbiter built to replace Challenger. She flew as a mission specialist and completed the educational objectives that were inspired by the original Teacher in Space program. Okay, guys, that's my complete list of the most memorable news stories of the 1980s, according to an 80s kid. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications so you know when my next video drops. Thanks so much to my channel members, those in the Gem on the 1 level and the I've Got 5 on it level, for supporting me in this channel. And if you'd like to become a member, just hit the join button below this video. And don't forget, I do go live every Friday night to hang out and watch old videos and reminisce about the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We have a lot of fun, so please stop by and say hi. Oh, and one more thing. In part 2 of this series, I talked about the Cabbage Patch Kids craze and how I got a knockoff on my 6th birthday in 1983 because my parents couldn't find a real one in stores because they were all sold out. Well, I found a photo. You're welcome. Okay, bye.
And I don't mind at all, 'cause I'll do anything for your loving. Could you take me for a fun, girl?